because it feels like no one else is experiencing what you're experiencing. My inner world would be very judgmental and ask myself, what's wrong with me? How do I fix this? How do I become congruent with the version of me that's going to allow me to thrive in the environments within which I live?
Welcome to Sensitive Stories. This episode is for educational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for treatment with a mental health or medical professional. Let's dive
Well,
in.
Nick, can we start by asking about your discovery story? How you realize that you're highly sensitive. I'm curious how that comes into your life.
Well, I- as I look back now, and it's easy to look back with hindsight, I
Yeah.
think I probably recognized a high level of intuition and sensitivity from being a young boy, but I wouldn't have connected to that in the way that I do now. The first thing that led me to it was the film Sensitive,
Yes.
which is maybe true for lots of other people as well. And that
Yeah.
was in and around the pandemic. So I'm quite a late bloomer as far as being introduced to
Okay.
what it is to be a highly sensitive person. But for me, it was so impactful, that film, and then reading Highly Sensitive Person, Elena Ron's book, that it was just like, well, this is like looking in a mirror.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I am on the page on the screen.
Yeah, and actually the normalization of that, I think, because for so long I'd lived my life asking myself in relation to a lot of these beautiful traits, what's wrong with me,
Yeah.
as opposed to celebrating and leaning and stepping into that, which is what I try and do as much as possible now, because it is beautiful.
Hmm.
It's a gift.
Oh, it's such a gift. If we can set aside the messages we've heard and say, no, there's a lot of assets here. It's okay to be more sensitive, more
Yeah.
emotional. So you are always knew, okay, something is a little different.
Yeah.
But then around the pandemic, you realize, oh, there's a name for this.
Yeah, just that there's a whole world and a whole group of people out there that have had their own version of the experience I just described,
Yeah.
and are talking about it and are connecting with each other because of it
Hmm.
and validating each other's experiences, which is really powerful.
Yeah. It's incredibly powerful to feel that sense of connection or not aloneness.
Yes.
It's so
Yeah,
important.
because I think especially as and this is just my lived experience, but especially as a man, I didn't grow up in environments where any of that was normalized.
Mm.
Not just by men, but also by the women in my life.
Right.
The usual things you might hear growing up, big boys don't cry and all this kind of thing. And especially being in high sports performance, which is what I grew up in, I think I found myself having to mask those traits and often resented them
Mm.
because they didn't fit the environments within which I was growing up. And I think we all can probably resonate with that to a certain degree as highly sensitive people. The world isn't necessarily built for us, but at the same time, I think we're well, certainly right now we're needed more than ever.
We truly are. And that resentment piece is very relatable. I feel that myself, or I hear it from others. Like, feels like it's a limitation sometimes, or that it's holding us back. But for me, it's only if I try to live others' expectations.
Exactly. It's
So,
it's exactly that.
yeah. So, did you feel like, oh, this sensitivity is holding me back from being the athlete I want to be or the man I want to be?
Sure.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't necessarily say I wanted to be the version of masculinity that I was being modeled. I don't think I ever felt that that was something I aspired to be, but I recognized that if I could behave as that version of masculinity, I was likely to be more successful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the the validation and the praise and moving on in that environment, the more I behaved in that way, the more of all of that stuff I got. And we all seek connection, we all seek validation. But
Yeah.
it also caused a real deep internal conflict within me that took me quite a number of years into my 20s and 30s to resolve.
Sure. So you're then getting all these accolades on the outside. You're
Yeah.
kind of keeping up, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, but inside something very different is happening.
Oh, the lack of one of my favorite words is congruence.
Yeah.
When what's happening inside me, as layered and chaotic as it might feel sometimes, is how I am behaving outwards and is reflected in the relationships that I have, I feel great, even in challenge. It feels
Mm.
real and I feel connected. But when there is a difference between those two things, and that especially when that difference is big, that's when I feel closed off and I struggle. I
Yeah.
struggle with deep loneliness, with an inability to connect. And that resentment you spoke about festers and grows because because it feels like no one else is experiencing what you're experiencing.
Yeah. You feel so alone.
Yeah,
Like, am I the only one that's living this?
I think so. And because of that, that's why I started to ask the questions along the lines of my inner world would be very judgmental and ask myself, what's wrong with me? How do I fix this? How do I become congruent with the version of me that's going to allow me to thrive in the environments within which I live? And I could never marry those two up. I
Yeah,
just
you're
couldn't do it. I
they don't
tried. I
fit.
tried every way I could, but I
Yeah,
just
they
couldn't
don't
do it.
fit. Yeah.
No, and I don't think anybody can do that.
Mm-mm. Now we can try. And I see people hurting themselves so much to try to fit into that box, um, to wear that mask, however you want to put it.
Yes, and I think that's a big part of the passion that drives me to do the work that I do now. The developing the skill set and belief and having the right support systems around us in order to kind of really bloom as who we naturally are is such a freeing experience
Mm-hmm.
that I'm still on that journey and will never stop, will never stop. But but it's the weight of all of those expectations, whether they come from society, family, you know, social circles, whatever it might be, having the courage, and I think it is courageous, having the courage to say, I am different and I'm going to get curious about that. And actually I'm going to walk a path instead of resentment and worry and regret and fear. I'm going to try and lean into empowerment and authenticity and connection because of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the transformational change that I've been through that I hopefully offer a facility for those that I work with to have their own version of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what we want for people, right? To be in alignment with their true selves. So you're walking through the world as as a highly sensitive man, not understanding quite why you experience the world the way you do. And then something clicks or shifts or starts to shift right around the pandemic. You discover Elaine Aron's work. So when do you start to feel though that shift from incongruence to congruence? And I know you're still there, but is there a
Yeah.
moment where you start to feel like, oh, something's different? I'm a little bit
Yeah,
more in alignment.
it was a couple of years before that. I think for me, high sensitivity was almost like the glue that brought all the pieces
Mm,
that I'd put together before that, that
yeah.
just made it go, ah, here's the picture. So but it was through a lot of suffering.
Yeah.
It was. What I found in therapy um, was an ability to make sense of what had led me to the point I was at.
Mm,
And I really value my therapeutic journeys. There's been more than one to allow me to do that. Um, but I wouldn't necessarily say it gave me the tools and the skills to live in the present and build a better future for myself.
hmm.
So I think one of my lowest periods was probably about 12 years ago, when I was really struggling and I didn't quite know where to go next. and uh, I went with a different kind of therapist that was more integrative and more in the moment and probably had more of a coaching approach,
Hmm.
which allowed me to, and I think I was ready for that. I don't think I was ready for that beforehand.
Yeah.
Um, but that moment of if I'm honest, it was quite early in this particular therapeutic journey. And when you're creating that relationship with the therapist and you're speaking a bit about your backstory, quite early on, this particular therapist felt comfortable enough and obviously saw that I was comfortable enough to have mirrored back to me after I was, speaking my truth and speaking my story, that they said, having got my consent, I just want to reflect one thing back, if that's okay. And they said, what's the common denominator in all of these stories that you're sharing with me?
Yeah.
And I had this beauty, it was a really almost like warm duvet blanket feeling of it's me.
Mm,
And I think that transitional point of that's not to take responsibility for things that happened to me that were troublesome, but I think there comes a point when we have to take responsibility for our own lives.
mhm.
And I think when you reach a certain point in your growth, development, healing, whatever words work for you, that that kind of call to action of personal responsibility. Okay, if I
Mm,
want things to get better than this, if I want to really connect to a version of me that feels truly real, I have to pay attention to that. And not just in a therapy session once a week, but all the time, every day. And I think that realization in that moment allowed that therapeutic journey to be incredibly powerful, which then
mhm.
took me into a real kind of exploration of um, what do I really like? What kind of clothes do I really like? Do you know what I mean? How do I want
Yes.
my hair to be? All of these simple things that maybe we take for granted, but often can
Mhm.
be influenced by forces outside of ourselves. So I just started there with this almost
Yeah.
childlike joy of what's new.
Yeah.
Who who am I really?
Mm. I just
And
got this image of you entering your body for the first time.
thank you for that reflection. That's really beautiful. It's
Mm.
exactly that. I'd learned to live my life from the neck up. But
I,
as highly sensitive people, I mean, trying to keep all that in is not
yeah.
easy.
It's a full-time job.
It really is. Really is.
I can relate because I lived the first 20 years of my life from the neck up.
Yeah.
And it was a slow dropping back down. And it was messy, but also beautiful.
Yes.
And I just feel emotional hearing your story, just knowing that, oh, you finally found yourself.
Mm,
And like the eyes of a child, like everything is new, and you get to, okay, what do I like? Who am I?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Which is why I really love associating with the term, like, I really consider myself a late bloomer. And
Yeah.
I've worked now with people that are older than I am now. I'm 51 now. And people far older than me are having their version of that. There's also people that are having that incredibly younger. And I think it can happen to all of us. It's available to all of us at any time,
Mm.
however we might feel about ourselves and what is possible for us. I
Yeah.
really have come to believe that deeply in my core.
Absolutely. You can find yourself at any decade of your life.
Yeah,
Yeah. 51, 71, 91.
absolutely.
It's all available.
Yeah, it is. It is. But
Yeah.
I also know what it is like to genuinely feel like that isn't available to me and that
Hmm.
I'm going to be in a life of struggle because of who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm going to adapt and I'm going to create a life which is less than because that does create a certain comfort within oneself.
Yeah.
But it's an illusionary comfort. And actually it's it's something which, as I'm saying it there, I can feel younger versions of me kind of connecting to them and because of what they lived through, because they thought that was all that was here that was available for them.
Hmm.
And there is a sadness to that, and I like to honor that in the present.
Yeah. There's a grief there that the younger versions of you, the younger parts,
Yeah.
didn't feel this congruence that you are living now.
Exactly. But
Mhm.
but rather than when I feel them come up, rather than feeling their sadness, I really resonate with the term reparenting. I can bring them forward into the present with me and show them what's possible now.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. Like it's an op I always am telling my clients, whenever something comes up, it's an opportunity to heal, to reclaim that experience of wholeness, of healing. It's like, oh yeah, the younger self is here. Let's help them have a different experience.
And that term reclaim, that word reclaim is really important because it's not that with all of this exploration we become something new or someone new.
Right.
We become who we were always here to be.
Yes. That is exactly it. Like you were always this. It was just hidden or
Exactly.
unavailable.
Yeah.
Maybe you were
And
in survival mode.
yeah, well, and I have no doubt if you're listening to this, you have your own version of that where for whatever reason, whatever happened to you, um, in big and small experiences, will have put certain layers up, which is why I often think about the work that I do and my own personal work is peeling back those layers. It's by peeling back those layers gently and safely that allows what has always been there within
Hmm.
to feel safe enough to show itself to the world.
Hmm. Yeah, it's true. It's like just letting it come to the surface when that safety is there.
Yeah.
And you mentioned your work a couple of times, so I want to give you a moment to share about that. How do you do that in your own work with clients where you help them maybe find that sense of safety or unmasking? What does that look like?
Um, so I take a person-centered therapeutic approach. So
Hmm.
I did some training towards training as a counselor and psychotherapist, which allowed me to develop those active listening skills, summarizing, reflecting back. And I believe in meeting everybody that I work with exactly where they are. And
Yeah,
for some relationships that happens really quickly, and for some relationships that takes time.
yeah.
So I think it starts with being able to hold space. And I don't part of me struggles with the term safe space because it's not for me to say whether the space is safe or not.
True. Yeah.
But I believe a space that can be it's about the space being safe enough for that person and those parts of them to step into that experience.
Hmm.
And so it's a dual responsibility and it's
Yeah.
it's very relational. And I think it's one of the skills that we have as HSPs that we can offer the strands of connection. And if the other person can receive that and feels ready to do that, it's very powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a gift we offer, being able to see people so deeply, who they are, what they need, how they're feeling. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But there's something for me about the relationship between high sensitivity as a set of traits, so how we experience our inner and outer world in the present. And one of my favorite words is appropriateness.
Mm.
Does all of that feel appropriate for us? But we also carry with us all of our experiences, good, bad, and indifferent, which have an effect on how we process our inner and outer world. And I think these things can get blended together.
Mm.
So for me, through curiosity, um, I try and allow the client to decide for themselves which is which. Now, a lot of my clients will have already gone through a therapeutic process, so they have a level of self-awareness where they might understand that they have younger versions of themselves that can pop up in the present, and
Mhm.
some of them might have awareness around trauma. And I think all of that's great, but you also don't have to have that to sit in a room with me. But mostly, I think it's about when you can become the observer of these things and more and create that experience within yourself, that's when I believe that the self leader in you emerges. It's the
Mm.
observer. It's the part of you which is the most precious and most real that exists
Mm,
within all of us. That when we connect to it, we can create that beautiful separation to observe ourselves and be compassionate towards ourselves rather than being blended and in all of this, which can feel overwhelming.
yes. Okay, this is crystallizing this for me. So if I'm in my self leader, I'm kind of in my true self where there's a clarity there. I'm observing, I can see myself and my needs. I'm not blending with kind of the outside world or what I think I should be wanting or needing. Do I have that right?
Yes, so you may have an awareness of that,
Yeah,
but you're not connected and blended with it.
right. I can kind of see it from a distance, or I have like some healthy separation from it.
I think, yeah, healthy separation is a great way of looking at it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. That's really clear. Can you tell me more about this self leadership? Because this is a new term for me that I didn't discover until we connected. So, can you describe a little bit more about what that means or what that looks
For
like in
sure,
practice? Yeah.
for sure. So for me, for me, the word self is really powerful. That we spoke about authenticity and how important that is for us as highly sensitive people. So we get to decide for ourselves if we give ourselves the privilege and the freedom and the opportunity to do so, to decide, well, who am I? What are my values? If I strip away what was given to me and what's influenced me and what might be the residue of things that have happened to me, what lies below that? When we can start to build a picture of that, I think we start to be able to connect with it. And somatically and emotionally, we can decide for ourselves whether that feels good and therefore might be true for us, or maybe doesn't. And
Yeah.
sometimes part of that beautiful journey is thinking things we think are true about ourselves actually turn out not to be.
It's so true. Yes.
But similarly, the opposite's true. So it's
Right.
being open to all of that. Um, and I think that for me, that part of ourselves has always been there.
Mm,
It needs to be nurtured and grown and worked on and has to have the opportunity to live and breathe in order to fully actualize and become all of that in the world. And that isn't easy for any of us, especially as highly
mm,
sensitive people. Um, but as I said, when we can do that, for me, self-leadership allows us to understand the parts of us which are working within us and can be affected by what's happening outside of us that aren't part of that core.
yeah.
Now, for
Hmm.
me, it's important to say they're just as beautiful and worthy and important here. But nevertheless, starting to gain a distinction between all of that allows us to walk with all of it more true to ourselves and maintain more of that authenticity, even when it's challenging, because that's important,
Yes.
rather than being subject to these experiences and these parts of ourselves that aren't necessarily part of who we are, wanting to jump in. So, if we think about common challenges of highly sensitive people, such as sensory overwhelm, emotional overload,
Hmm.
present itself in outburst.
Yeah.
That was really common for me.
Hmm.
And how I perceive things can change in an instant. A common one for me is often restaurants.
Mm,
So sometimes I can be incredibly present with my partner who's sitting opposite me.
yeah.
Sometimes all I can perceive, as hard as I try, is their mouth moving, and I can hear almost every conversation on all the other tables, and a waiter dropping some forks over there.
Yeah.
And if for me, what I've learned is that if in that particular situation, in that particular example, some of that is sensory and some of that is to do with me being a highly sensitive person, but
Right.
also part of it is to do with a younger version of me that felt whenever I was growing up and was taken to restaurants and things, which wasn't that often, I'd have to be on best behavior.
Right.
So my hypervigilance of how I had to be and all that kind of thing. So when I go to a restaurant, which is maybe new for me, I, I now know through self-leadership, I can check in with that part
Yeah.
and be more present, hopefully, with my partner than I would have done otherwise before I was aware of that. So these are the kind of tools, if you like, to of self-awareness that can allow us to
Yes.
be present in our lives in circumstances where maybe we've said, well, this is just who I am because I'm an HSP,
Right. But
which
there's
is
more to the
true.
story.
Yeah, it's true, but it's not the
Right.
whole truth necessarily.
Right. It's a yes and.
Exactly, exactly. And you get to decide what's true for you. That's
Mhm.
the important and the empowering thing here.
It is empowering to be able to unhook from the idea of I will always be overstimulated in any restaurant
Yes.
versus, oh, sometimes if the noise is high enough, I may be, but if I've had a good night's sleep and I'm aware of that story of being a kid and being told to be perfectly behaved, if I can pull some of that away, I might actually be able to relax a little bit and have
It's
a different
exact
experience.
it's exactly that because when we make judgments about ourselves that are limiting, then we are quite literally putting up a boundary of what's possible for us. And again, just to reiterate, for all sorts of reasons, that boundary may be true
Mhm.
for you, and that's okay. But you get to decide that. But it's only through the exploration that I think you can make that determination.
Right. Right, exactly. Being careful to put on absolutes, like I am always this or I'm always that. Well, maybe. And you might sit with yourself in restaurants a few different times, realize no, no matter what, noisy restaurants aren't a space I can feel grounded in or regulated in or calm in. And that's okay. But give yourself a chance. Be curious first.
I think so, because otherwise the beautiful traits of what it is to be a highly sensitive person, I'm not trying to be melodramatic here, but they can become really limiting
Yes.
if we look at it and experience it in that way. And not just in relation to high sensitivity, but certainly on my own journey, um, when I felt down, if I go to a GP, they might describe that as, well, that's depression. That's a diagnosis which can feel
Right.
relieving and give an
Yeah.
opportunity to take a step forward, but it can also become a reason to stay exactly where you are.
Right. And it may not actually be clinical depression. It could be your nervous system is collapsed and
And
it's mimicking depression.
I'm so glad that you've mentioned the nervous system because that for me is the kind of what runs through all of what we've spoken about so far.
Mm-hmm.
And learning more, not just up here, but especially in here,
Yes.
of how our nervous system works and what stimulates it
Yeah.
is a really important piece of this puzzle for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes in my sessions we don't talk an awful lot and it's much more experiential. What's happening in your body now when you think of that version of you that you know struggles going into restaurants?
Yes.
It becomes more than a cognitive exercise. It becomes experiential and somatic and emotional, which is all the stuff we're really good at.
We're amazing at it. Yeah.
You know?
We're so attuned to those little nuances in our
Yeah.
bodies, or we could be.
Yes, but sometimes we deny ourselves the full range of all of that because it
Mm-hmm.
feels maybe too much or too scary,
Yeah.
which
We don't
again,
have the capacity in the
for
moment
sure,
to
for
take it
sure.
in.
And, you know, there's a lot happening in the world at the moment, which adds to that locally, nationally, internationally. And I think as highly sensitive people, we have to really protect our energy as far as all of that goes.
Yeah.
But I do think we can also put ourselves in a position to be able to engage with it. And I think it's important that we engage with it, all of it, what's happening in our lives, in our relationships, in our communities, as well as what's happening on the world stage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when we think of all that together, even as I say that now, I can feel my nervous system going, hang on a minute, Nick, what are you doing
Slow
here?
down.
That's okay.
That's okay. It is overwhelming to think of knowing everything all at once.
Yeah.
And we can take in or step into that self leadership and take control, not
Yeah.
just be a passive absorber of all the information, but step
Mm,
in and say, this is how I'm going to absorb it, and this is when I'm going to absorb it. Would that be
Exactly.
true? Yeah. Okay.
Without a doubt. And that can happen working with someone else. I think it's really powerful to learn to do some of that work yourself.
Yeah.
So some of the things that have become part of my daily life would be things like working with my breath. How am I feeling today? And using the breath to connect to that,
Hmm.
to understand what's true for me, to allow think about what's happening ahead of my day. Who do I need to be? Who do I want to be in all of these environments with all of these people? So before meeting you and having this wonderful conversation, I did a lot of dancing around. I wanted to connect to the younger
Yeah.
versions of me that are
Hmm.
allowed to express themselves.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I sat here for a moment as I did a meditation that I like to do is like a clearing and re-energizing just for a moment. It's maybe 30 seconds, but it helps so much. And the
Yes.
breath is always with us. Such a
It-
gift.
It's one of the most accessible tools that we all have.
Yeah.
Is so that's a big one for me. The power of visualization,
Mm.
meditation, especially from the perspective of observation, like not to clear the mind,
Yeah. Just a
to see
witness.
what's present, and yeah, exactly, to witness it and to show all of that love, compassion, acceptance without trying to judge it, fix it, work with it, all
Right.
that kind of stuff. But at the same time, when I think about things like NLP, hypnotherapy, EFT tapping,
Hmm.
they're very active exercises where we're using our imagination and seeing what our subconscious has to say about our experience. And all of
Hmm.
this is just a beautiful part of what self-leadership is for me. It's continuing to learn what do I need and
Mm.
answering the call of that so that I can show up for me and those around me as much as
Yeah.
possible, as appropriately as possible, without abandoning myself.
That's it. Coming into that congruence and just checking in. What do I need? What's authentic to me? Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. It can be so simple just to be with yourself in that moment.
Yes.
Well, Nick, we have to start to wrap up. So I'm wondering, I mean, you shared so many beautiful sentiments here today. Is there any final thoughts that feel important to say before we start to wrap up?
I definitely want to express gratitude for the conversation because I feel
Yeah,
really wonderful having shared this space with you, April. So thank you for that.
same.
I think, I don't know, if you're listening to this and you're either at the start of your journey of discovering high sensitivity, or maybe you've been here for a while and you've reached a pause or a stop, or maybe you have reached somewhere where you feel like I'm not sure anything more is possible. I
Hmm.
think leaning into curiosity, leaning into what's true for you inside, see if you can connect to your own self leader. Does that term even resonate with you? It might not, and that's okay too.
Hmm.
But maybe getting to know them, maybe exploring your values again or for the first time, maybe characterizing who you know yourself to be and seeing that
Hmm.
reflected back to you, and what does that do inside your body.
Yeah.
All of these kind of playing with what's true for you can
Hmm.
often create some of the biggest and best shifts that we have, and it's all very simple, accessible stuff.
It's really true. And that curiosity piece is so important when we've had to live outside of ourselves so much. Like, I always am encouraging my clients, like, take yourself on a date, go to the toy store, go to the craft store, go to the bookstore, go to the library, go have a
Yeah,
cup of tea and just sit and just be with yourself. See what
yes,
comes through.
absolutely. And also to honor any of the challenges that might come up for you, from the point
Yeah,
of even hearing the idea you just suggested to actually being there. Like that's
right.
a journey in itself.
That's right. It's
And
all part of it.
you don't have to do the whole thing all at once,
Nope.
you know? And this is all part of it for me. Just that, take what's the first step in front of you.
That's
Let's
it.
take that and see what happens.
Yeah. Maybe even just think about asking the question before you actually ask yourself the question.
Absolutely.
What question might resonate if you even were to ask yourself a question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love
It's
it so much.
all of that opportunity to connect with what it is that beautifully makes you you.
Yeah, exactly.
And all of it's important, and there is no right way.
Mm-hmm.
There are right ways for each of us, and we get to decide what they are.
We get to decide. Yeah, I love that. Well, Nick, thank you again. I will make sure to share all of your resources in the show notes, your website, your Instagram, your different offerings that you have for folks. Can you tell us a little bit about the men's community that you run and also your one-to-one coaching?
Yeah, for sure. So the community is actually for all genders. So I run it with my
Mm,
partner Jess, that I'm in business with. She's a highly sensitive person too, and it's called the 3E Space
mm,
community. So our business is the 3E Space. The three E's being explore, energize, and empower, which
mm,
is the kind of three-step process that we we take it all of the people that we work with on. And
mm-hmm,
within the community itself, we have community events. So it might be group coaching, it might be breath work, but we also have little villages within the community, one of which is a men's space that I run,
oh, I love
which
that.
gets together once a month. And on a quarterly basis, we just collectively choose an area of focus which is meaningful for us. We think about whether we want support and accountability to spend time with that to move forward with it, and we all kind of help lead each other and grow as highly sensitive men. And then the two other main offerings that I have is I have the Inner Leader Lab, which is a group program, which is focused on really connecting to who you are, that self leader.
Mm,
But the one-for-one coaching is the real deep dive.
yeah.
I love working with people for 6 months. I
Mm-hmm.
work with men in that particular space, highly sensitive men, um, of all ages, but men maybe that are just feeling that call to action of, I know there's more for me in my life than what I'm giving myself the privilege and the freedom to experience,
Mm,
but I'm feeling a bit stuck and I'm not quite sure how to get there.
yeah.
And it's the work that I love doing the most.
I love it. Oh, so many beautiful offerings and spaces for people to step into depending on what they're needing. So I'll be sure to share all of those for folks if they want to join in.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and do connect with me as well. Please do connect with me. I love connecting with highly sensitive people of all genders.
I love it. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, April. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been a joy.